Why I Don't Whistle at Night. The Whistler. Spring is a joyful time, especially in places that are plagued with long, cold winters. However, one should remember that not everyone is as joyful as you. Also, some things may try to ruin your fun. It was a cold, dark, early spring night. I had just spent the night at the local pub that was about a 20-minute walk from my apartment. On the way to my flat, there is about a 15-minute rural walk that passes by maybe 5 farms. I was walking fast as I was cold and didn't want to stay in the cold much longer. Nothing was out of the normal, just the smell I had become accustomed to in Korea. Yes, I live in Korea, and the reason I walk by the farms is because it reminds me of my rural upbringing. About 6 minutes into my rural walk, I heard a whistling sound, at which I first attributed to the wind and the trees. But out of the corner of my eyes, I seen a figure. After all, there are people everywhere in Korea, so I kept walking and managed to reach my house without incident. The rest of the week passed by, and I never thought twice about that night, as nothing happened. On Friday morning of that week, I went on a jog through the rural area and noticed that there were 2 towels tied to the porch roof of one of the farmhouses. They looked tarnished and almost resembled the faces of people. I had never seen these towels before, and they grabbed my attention. The details were immaculate, even though they looked like they had been sitting outside for years. As I passed by the building, I took a good look at them and kept walking. That night, I spent the night at the pub, and at closing time, I got ready to make my trek home. The weather had gotten warmer in Korea, and it was almost warm enough to wear shorts and a t-shirt at night. Again, when I was deep into the rural area of my walk, I heard whistling. As I was not cold tonight, I searched for the source of the whistling, but the trees seemed to be still. I looked at the fields and at eye level when I seen a man whistling. He wasn't staring at me or even looking at me. He was just whistling and looking parallel to my direction. I wasn't scared or uncomfortable, as the man didn't seem threatening. I turned and walked the rest of the way home. On Monday, I met my coworker before work and told him about my weekend and the Friday night incident. He seemed intrigued by my story and said he would have whistled at the man. I showed him on a map the rural area, as he wasn't a patron of the local pub and had never walked the route before. After work that night, I went straight home and settled for the night. The next day, my coworker didn't show up for work. My boss asked me if I had talked to him after work that night. But I hadn't. For the rest of the week, my coworker didn't show. I thought he pulled a quick night run and had left Korea. Living abroad takes a toll on people, and it is common for expats to leave without notice. That Friday night was warm, and I wore just shorts and a light t-shirt to the pub. When I had left the pub that night, I was actually anticipating the whistling man. As I approached the rural area, the whistling man had changed his tune. Tonight he also looked at me and smiled. I tipped my hat as I passed the porch. I noticed a third rag towel had been added, and that striking resemblance to my coworker.